So in terms of how my mood has been, bear in mind this was 9 years ago now. It was a bit of a roller coaster. I think when I was first discharged from hospital, I didn't actually understand that kind of momentous event that I'd been through. And that only became apparent over time. I think for the first 12 months, I was struggling, as I said, with fatigue. I was struggling with the memory loss. I developed ways of coping with them, but the fatigue thing was still there, and not being able to do things that I used to be able to do was getting very, very, very frustrating. And so my mood would be, up and down. I'm quite a positive person anyway, but over the first 12 months, I think my general demeanor decreased. So I got worse, not better, over the first 12 months. And then I kind of realized that I needed to do something. I couldn't continue on this downward slope. I think I was quite lucky in recognizing that myself. I couldn't allow myself to continue on this downward slope. And at that point in time, it's when I started looking around actually for answers. I discovered Paul and a few other people, and managed to talk to some other survivors. And that helped a lot. That made me realize that I wasn't on my own, even though there wasn't really any help out there officially. At least being able to talk to people showed me that this is a survivable event. And that was quite a significant point in my life when I thought, okay, it is survivable and I can fix this, but I need to do it effectively myself. So yeah, my mood went up and down. It got to like a low point after about 12 months, and then it's went back to normal fairly quickly after
that. My mood after my arrest initially was quite up and down. It took me a while because of my memory and fatigue and everything to sort of understand what had happened to me, and to understand the seriousness of it. Consequently, once I learned all that, I sort of hit a real low and felt really sorry for myself. And it was quite difficult to comprehend and come to terms with what had happened. So it was definitely an emotional roller coaster. Some days I'd be all right and accepting of it. Other days I would be crying my eyes out and why me, why me? It didn't provoke anxiety in the early days, but certainly sort of after my physical recovery, the anxiety became really quite problematic for me, and I had some counselling and a course of medication to help my mood. When something like that happens to you, it certainly makes you question a lot of things about yourself. There are times now, sort of 6 years on, that I really struggle with my predicament, for want of a better word, and I still question why me, and it makes me sad and cry when I think too much about it, just because of the what ifs. But I try not to let that win me over now. I try and remember all the good things, and all the things that I can do and all the things that I am doing, and so I sort of can keep a really good a really good level mood now. Again, like I said, I get days where it just crushes me, but I then sort of give myself a kick up the rear and say, come on, Ingrid, this is just a bad day, not a bad life. So it's still a bit of a roller coaster, but nowhere near as bumpy as a ride as what it was in the early days. And with my memory being a little bit better and understanding of everything, it's soon passes and I can cope and happily sort of like live alongside my diagnosis now.
Yeah, mood up and down, massive roller coaster. Some days I feel on top of the world, honestly. I feel fantastic, and then other days it's like it sort of creeps in over the day, and I'll start the day and I'll feel generally fine. I think, oh, I'm gonna have a good day, and then as the day goes on, and I have little like snippets come into my head, like, oh, you've got an ICD, is it going to go off? So I'll have like a little panic all of a sudden, which then drops my mood massively. And yeah, it is definitely a roller coaster. Like I said, I had that little panic with the ICD, and that just puts my anxiety levels right through the roof. Which obviously I already suffer with anxiety quite a lot anyway, and also depression. They were two that I already had way before the cardiac. So just adding in the fact that I've got this thing in my chest and it could go off at any moment adds a hell of a lot of anxiety, and also adds into the depression. But over time, I've become calmer, and I've come to, come to appreciate it being in my chest, this ICD, and seeing it more as a guardian angel rather than something bad. The other thing I've questioned a lot really is my mortality. When I came out of the cardiac, I was terrified of death, and I was quite open with it. I was terrified of death, and strangely, in the recovery, I've sort of become not afraid of death anymore. I've sort of become more, okay, so eventually this thing's going to happen. And they say, don't they, that you have two lives. You have the one that you have in the beginning, and then you have the one that after you learn that you can die. And I think that is such a superb little slogan. I think that's brilliant, and it's 100% true. 100% true.
I think for me, my mood has been the hardest thing for me to actually accept post cardiac arrest. In the early days, as I've mentioned before, my language was very choice. I would swear uncontrollably. I would cry at the slightest things that I wouldn't normally have cried at. My sleep was very poor. I'd get angry very, very quickly. And normally I'm a very calm person. And I really, really struggled with the heightened emotions that I was feeling. Before my cardiac arrest, I was very blessed. I'd never suffered with any mental health problems. I do not feel depressed. However, I have felt extreme trauma, and I feel there is a real difference between depression and trauma. Luckily, I have sought some counselling, which has really, really helped me. I have had 2 episodes since my cardiac arrest of PTSD, which have come out of nowhere. My first one was some 18 months after my cardiac arrest. I think initially I was just the enormity of my cardiac arrest. I was just so glad to be alive. And then the enormity of what actually happened hit me. My biggest advice to anybody would be to reach out and have some counselling sessions, because it really does help you to accept the new person and the new you, which I felt was the hardest thing for me to actually accept. Today, I feel really, really well. My mood feels very well. There is life after cardiac arrest, and it's just learning to deal with the new person that is you. My emotions still at times can be very erratic, so I still cry at things, but not to the degree that I did in the early days.
Many of us in the various help forums that we all join or should join, we all talk about the roller coaster, and it really is. You've got to have been there and done it to totally get it, I guess. And I'd rather not be in the club, if you like. But we do go through huge swings, or I certainly did. A lot of other people I know have. The emotions, when you think about it, you kind of, you didn't die, but you stopped living for a few minutes or for however long it happened to you. Some people, very long periods. So it's bound to have an effect on you mentally. And I find now, 2.5 years down the line, I'm not quite as sensitive as I was. But for the last couple of years, anything would make me cry. Getting very emotional about little things. You can hear me choking up now, having to talk about it. it does affect you. I had counselling. I had a really good lady recommended to me. I did 5 1-hour sessions, and that helped me a lot. Because when you're in these depressions, and you do go through depressions, and you kind of learn to live with it, but there are odd times when you just feel very low, fed up, miserable, frustrated. My poor wife really had to put up with a lot of extremes, you know, in the first period of recovery. Counselling definitely helped. I would recommend it to everybody. Find the right counsellor. I was lucky. I hit on a really good one. She totally got me, and she helped a lot. So now, yeah, I still have like moments when I wish this hadn't all happened to me. I still get frustrated at times because I can't do things. I do get anxious very occasionally. Had a little period this week, but generally okay. Mortality, well, you know, I'm lucky, aren't I? I'm still here.